Hi, and welcome to Monarch Moments. I'm Rika McDonald.
And I'm Danelle Miranda.
The Office of Multicultural Affairs brought together a panel to discuss diversity and growing up.
So my kind of exploration through race was very, very different, and it was a long process because I had many kind of elements, sneaks that I had to see through there.
We just started to see the.
Well, I think really the first time was when I got that whack on the butt for drinking out of, is that me? No. Okay, I was drinking out of the wrong water fountain. Not wrong water fountain, but the one of choice that I made anyway. And the interesting thing is that in that culture at that time, we were obsessed with issues around race. At least my family was. They indoctrinated me. They said, you are superior, you are better than, you're better than a woman, and particularly anyone of another race. White males are superior. And it's interesting how that you, at some point or another, become more knowledgeable about your race when those issues surface. And you begin to see issues around privilege. Now, I didn't understand that at the time, but I knew that I had more privilege than a lot of other people who were around me, either females or particularly African Americans. Hispanics were not an issue at the time because they did not exist in northern Alabama. So we were indoctrinated into that culture. No black person could go to eat in a restaurant with me. See, that's been within my lifetime. Legally, you could not go to the movie theater. There was a separate entrance, and African Americans had to go upstairs. Could not be on the first floor. Churches were segregated, still are for the most part, but were at that point. So it was a interesting culture in which to live.
My brother was in kindergarten and I was a couple years older than him. We were coming home from school and we were just pushing and shoving just like normal brothers and sisters do, nothing major. And this lady stopped, rolled down the window, and she said, "You little black boy, you leave that little white girl alone." And we just kind of snickered at that at the time, but when I got home, I asked my mom, I said, "Mom," I told her what happened. I said, "Someone called Kevin a little, my brother, a little black boy. Is he a little black boy?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, am I a white girl?" And she said, "Yes." And then I said, "Why?" That's the big question, why? And she just said, "Well, you're a miracle." You know, and at 7 or 8, it just made, I said, okay, you know, like I said, we were a Christian family, went to church, and at that time, that made sense, and that made sense to me. Well, you fast forward, I don't know, good until I was in 10th grade. Again, I was living here in North Carolina. We were in biology class, and we were doing those genetic, do you remember those genetic squares where you compute what kind of widow's peak and hair and eye color that you would be if you married up with someone else. But anyway, so I was computing my little square with my mom and with my dad and trying to come up with some kind of scenario of what I might look like. And it just didn't make sense, you know, and I raised my hand and I hadn't questioned things from my parents. I really didn't do a whole lot of questioning. It just was normal. You know, we were just an ordinary family, just like everyone else who had blended families with different ethnicities. It just wasn't a big deal. So I raised my hand and I asked the teacher, and I said, you know, how is this? Like, my brother is mixed, clearly, and I'm white, and my sister's mixed, and my mom is German, and my dad is black, and I don't understand. What's the chance of this happening? And she said, you know, it's probably like 1 in a million. And I said, okay. So I went home and I said, Mom, guess what I learned in genetics in biology class today? And she just kind of looked at me and, well, you're a miracle. And that was her response. So, and that's, you know, from a questioning standpoint, I just kind of accepted that. Later on, my sister would make comments, and my brother too. Again, in high school, my brother said, you know, it must be easy for you. You're white, and no one really thinks that you're mixed or that you're from our family. They don't make fun of you the way they make fun of me. And I remember thinking that was sad for my brother, that he was made fun of. But I also remember thinking that it's really hard for me because people look at me on the outside, maybe some of the African Americans in my class, or they look at me like I'm white, and yet like I don't understand anything about them or where they might have come from. And that was really hard for me because we had a lot more in common than they knew if they would just give it a chance to get to know me.
My journey, becoming conscious of my racial identity was also a really slow process. Like I said, I lived in Alaska, and the community that I was in was very, very small, and there were not very many Caucasian people in the community at all. And so while I was surrounded by racism quite often, I never really became aware of it. I kind of always associated my teasing and the things that were being done to me as things that were done to me because of not my race, not my color. I remember walking home from school in my first weeks there and being followed home by two of the native children that were in my class, and they literally followed me home while they were throwing rocks at me and telling me to go back to where I was from. And they did not want me there. 10 to 15 native boys, some of them in high school, some of them in middle school, came out of the woods and met her and ran away from her. But they had held down one of a 5-year-old that was kind of in our group that they were playing with us, held him down and punched him in the face, and there was blood everywhere. And even after things like that, I still had no concept that it was because of my race that I was being singled out I had no idea that it was my race. And it actually did not occur to me, any of this, until I was in 7th grade. I went to South Africa, and it was very noticeable. I noticed the distinct difference between me and a lot of the people that I was around, and I came back and I started kind of thinking about it a little bit, but it still wasn't as prominent. It was kind of, it kind of got pushed to the back. And I don't think that I became conscious of the fact that I had experienced racism in Alaska until I was in college.
Because I still have relatives alive, and I go back there, and they still, in 2012, think the way they did in 1950. It's amazing that they're still alive. They still have the same thoughts. So a significant event to me was moving away. Now, my parents and I were the only part of the family that left Alabama. Everybody else stayed there. They thought we were renegades because we were moving to North Carolina. We were going up to Yankee territory. And they were going to ostracize us. And at that time, I was in, 7th grade, I was about 12, 13. And it was traumatic to leave all my grandparents and great-grandparents that were still alive in Alabama, but one of the best things that ever happened. So sometimes bad experiences, you think, turn out to be good experiences. So we moved to North Carolina, and for the first time, I went to school with persons who were a different race than myself. And I was scared. I absolutely was frightened when I went to school in North Carolina, and there are people in that room who were a different color than I was. So, and I said, all right, well, we'll give it a try, and we'll see how we go. And that was the first real profound, eye-opening experience to me, was when I was in school and sat beside someone who was a different race. And then to find out, these are real people. They have feelings and desires and emotions just like I do. That means my granddaddy was wrong. And that was a hard thing for me to accept early on, was that my family and what they taught me. Now, you always taught to honor your mother and father and believe everything they believe. Well, that's not always right.
Well, one of the hard parts about my story is I buried a lot of it in shame. I felt this immense immense pressure to protect the reputation of my parents. And as a result, I didn't really talk about my experience. I didn't seek out help. I just lived in a fog of shock for a long time. It kind of led me into some unhealthy things for a while. But after a few years, and it really did take me quite a long time, I was able to share my story. And that was the beginning of learning to accept my story and let it be a part of what I can offer other people. And also to let it propel me forward in my own life.
We also had some great activities here on campus. And now to Raquel.
Thank you, Danelle. Methodist University adds their own twist to Halloween with a zombie prom. Our own Reverend Staffley gave his take on Michael Jackson during MU's Hoopla Frenzy.
go. That's your go. Come on. Get set. Go. Eddie, go. Go. Let's give it up. Is that it? For Donnie O'Dale, our winner. We got some leverage for you here. Come on, Donnie, go ahead and get your stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the women's basketball team. Where are they? They're coming from somewhere. Keep an eye open, they will soon appear.
The health fair offered great insight and takes on living well and staying fit. Back to you, Danelle.
Thank you, Raquel. Andrew Hammond got a chance to speak with Stop Hunger Now coordinator Terry Brown, while students got a chance to package food for the organization.
What's your name, sir?
Terry.
Terry
Brown.
Terry Brown. And how are you involved with Stop Hunger Now?
I'm the program manager for the Raleigh area.
Okay, thank you. How long have you been involved in Stop
I've gone
Hunger?
on 5 years.
5 years.
Raleigh is the largest warehouse right now. We do about 200 and some events a year. I would say the average per warehouse, we have 14 warehouses, probably growing, but right now about 130, but they're growing. Raleigh's the oldest, it's been here the longest, so we got a head start.
Okay. So you say that you started off in Raleigh?
Yes, sir.
All right. And could you explain to us a little bit on what each packet comprises of in terms of food packaging?
Each packet has 4 ingredients. There's a vitamin packet, which is very important because it's we're trying to boost the immune system. The vitamins definitely needed. Then it's soy protein, which is in place of meat, because we want to make certain that no matter where our meals go, no matter what the religious or cultural beliefs, they're able to meal. It is a vegetarian dish. Then it's dehydrated vegetables, and then rice.
And each packet will, how's it distributed? And after it leaves here?
Each packet goes through, for the most part, we've done school lunch programs across the world. We're international, we're not domestic. We do domestic relief or disaster or something, but most of them are meals, probably 90% go out to other countries, school lunch programs as a incentive for the children to actually attend school. Hopefully they will further education, which will break the cycle they find themselves and get gainful employed by more education you have. Hence the reason all you guys here and you in college, you understand you got to take that next step to make yourself more marketable. That's what we're hoping for. These kids will actually at least finish high school and make themselves more employable.
Thank you very much. How, in terms of efficiency of all these packaging, How many boxes and packets do you say you can pack in an hour?
You guys, in an hour, depending on the group, the number, you guys are actually going to package somewhere in the area of 140 something boxes as a group today. Average of 7 to 9 people per household. Could you imagine on $2 you can buy a soda pop, you can buy a Snickers, and then that's your meal for the day. But also keep in mind that soda pop and Snickers has to be shared among 7 to 9 other people in your household. Now imagine if you had someone who's sick. Either you can give them food for the day or you can buy medicine. If you buy the medicine, no one eats, but yet that one person gets the medicine. But then they're still sick the next day. Do you get them food or do you buy medicine the next day? Then that's 2-3 days in a row that people don't eat. You see the problem that these folks find themselves in. So we send our meals to school lunch programs that you send it. The parents just have to send their child to school. And that's a perfect place to stop the cycle that they have found themselves in. Because once you get them to school, you can get their little bellies full. Because right now their bellies ache and they hurt so much that it's hard to focus. You all have gone at the time we haven't eaten for a few hours. Think about how your mind just wanders, how you have no energy, how your stomach starts to hurt. Now imagine this being a chronic problem. So you get them to school with these meals, you get their bellies full. Then you're getting the body strong, because now you're giving them a nutritious meal. With the ingredients we have, it's a very vitamin-rich meal. So now their body can start operating effective properly. They can start working on their immune system, strengthening up something. And places like I mentioned earlier, in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, they resort to mud cookies, where you have to take dirt, lard, and salt, you mix it together, you spread it out, bake it in the sun, and for 5 cents you can have a mud cookie. That's what some people resort to in this world. And there's also these people who are working to earn less than $2 a day. 2 billion people on this planet out of 7.2 billion are living on less than $2 a day. On that $2, they have to feed their families, clothe their families, house their families.
It really sounds like they're making a difference for those who are less fortunate. That's so important at this time of the year when everyone's so family-minded. The American Marketing Association also had guest speaker Bill Bowman of the Kidsville News.
I am a newspaper publisher. I published this publication. Anyone ever seen it? Up and Coming Weekly? All right. Now, I know some of you are saying print is dead. It's a dinosaur. Nobody reads newspapers anymore. I'm going to tell you, folks, that is not true. Okay? Especially community newspapers. Okay? Very important for you guys to find out what's going on here in this community. All right? And 18% of our readers are actually between the ages of 18 and 24 years old. So that tells you that young people do read community newspapers. I started this publication from scratch in 1996. It's like a biscuit, all right? We started it from scratch. I had an idea, and there was a need to fulfill in this community, and that is to have a publication that actually reflected what this community was all about. Quality of life of this community, of which Methodist University is a very important part of. Methodist University actually was one of the very first supporters of our publication here. But in 1998, we created Kidsville News, okay? And the reason this is important for all you to know is because this was a collaboration of educators in this community and people who saw a vision for improving literacy in young people, okay, so they could go on to higher education like you guys are doing today. All right, very proud of this publication. Between 1998 and 2005, this was a Cumberland County product. Okay, starting in 2005, we decided to let other communities do it if they wanted to do it. And now we're in 14 states, 44 communities. Kidsville News, that was started here in Cumberland County, now serves 1.7 million children, teachers, and parents every month. Okay, and we're only in 44 communities. So you can imagine the impact that this publication is having nationally, and it started here in Cumberland County. Everything your professors are teaching you, everything you're learning here is good, but it's not going to even compare to the life lessons that you're going to learn when you're out there trying to find your own job, trying to build your own career, to build your place in the community, when you're out there figuring out what you're going to do next, when you're going to raise your family, when you're going to start really enjoying the American way of life.
Thank you for joining us here on Monarch Moments. I'm Rika McDonald.
And I'm Danelle Miranda. And remember, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Till next time,
Have a good night.